All right. Craig.
Trace.
Top of the ninth. What I thought was going to be, I guess I thought was going to be a tie game. And, you know, when you're setting things up, you don't get a chance to really, you know, watch every single pitch. Turns out, I go to check the box score really quick, flip on the game day app or whatever they call that thing. Gamecast is what I call it. And sure enough, they spoiled it. And then I look over to my right, and there goes the ball. So, tough. I don't know.
Thanks, Gamecast.
I'm going to need your help tonight. I know Nick's usually the optimistic one. I'm in bad shape, and I just realized my headset's unplugged, so that's going to be a problem. So let me plug that in.
No wonder he didn't acknowledge me when I said hello. Now we know why. That would explain why you didn't acknowledge me when I said hi back.
Yeah. Hold on.
The silence makes me think that wasn't happening. So here we go. Did you really get muted? What just happened?
I'll get it here in a minute. They can hear you. They can. Wait a minute. This is
Chat,
good.
what's going on?
This is good, chat.
I'm back, and Trace's microphone's all jacked up.
Something's wrong here. I can hear you, but you can't hear me.
You're just way delayed. You're way delayed on YouTube. Hold on. Maybe it's just me.
You can hear me?
Yeah,
wait.
Like 10 seconds late.
Yeah, something's messed up. I am going to delete out my microphone and put it back in, and I think that'll fix it. That's my hope, at least. So we're about to find out in real time. So that's how we're going to do this. Hold on.
Oh.
Okay.
I think you're good. Talk.
Yeah, we're good. Now I got to figure out how to mute it in my own headphones. So, you know, it's always something. But here we go. I'm going to figure it out. Okay. Yeah, a little on-the-fly engineering there. So
look at you. Someone should hire you to be like a professional video producer or something.
No.
Look at us. Look at us.
So we've made it. We've made it here. We'll even add this because now we look really professional. And the Reds, bases loaded, nobody out. I mean, hey, stop paying attention and then good things happen.
Who needs a game? Maybe if Trace and I just work on technical stuff for the rest of the night, maybe we'll come back and win this game.
I shouldn't even look up. Do you know whose fault this is? Do you know whose fault this is? If we want to play this fun, dumb game. He can blame Sadak for this. Is who he can blame. And I say that a little bit of tongue-in-cheek, like it's just a little bit of a bit. But Sadak did. Can we all agree that Sadak pretty much acted like it was going to be impossible for them to score 3 runs on Emmanuel here?
I mean, Emmanuel Clase is pretty good. Reds might be better. Sorry, I can't say that.
What, are you kidding? That's the season. Like that. There's no way De La Cruz is safe. And you know what? He shouldn't be safe. He's out. I seen it in real time. He's out. If he's not out, then I'll say my eyes are getting old and I'm losing my game. I seen it in real time. He's out. No, he's not out. He's not out. I take it back. He's not out. I'll tell you what. That's an amazing job by. Ooh, maybe I don't know.
It's real close.
So
Are they even challenging?
I feel like they should challenge it because why wouldn't you?
Man, I looked down for 2 seconds. Well, they must not be challenging it, right?
Yeah, I guess not. Class A. Class A. Class A. Class A. What a name.
All right, I'm hiding chat for now. I'll come back to you in a minute, chat.
I mean, can we just talk about what happened right there? Just absolutely smoked a baseball right at somebody.
Yeah, you want to talk about the season? That's the season right there.
Yeah.
We're getting robbed left and right, Trace.
As long as, well, it's going to require someone to probably limp off with an injury here, too.
That's true. That's true. Don't jinx it, man.
I'm just saying that's like the only thing left to see this inning that would require it to be 100%. This guy's just so good. Guardian's got a cool little stadium, man.
The Jake.
Yeah, that's old school.
Can we still call it that? Do people in Pennsylvania still call it that?
I don't know. You're going Pennsylvania. I was going Canada.
Canada works too.
That's such a good pitch.
It all comes down to our boy Jake Fraley.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doubling his last at bat.
$103, dude. See, I seen who was it? There was somebody on another show that said that Class A is the best pitcher of all time, up to 200 innings so far.
That's a stat.
I'm not going to sit here and act like they're wrong either, if we're being honest.
Oh, yeah. Austin Hedges says Emmanuel Clase is the best pitcher he's ever caught through this point in his career. I guess he would know. I'm also not sure how many pitchers Austin Hedges has caught. So
I don't think that's it. I think there was someone else that said he's the best pitcher of all time through 200 innings. I think.
Like an actual stat?
No, it's not a stat. That guy actually said that. This guy's saying that he is. He just quite literally is.
Oh, he's like confirming. Okay. Well. Lowest ERA in MLB history, minimum 50 innings. Emmanuel Clase is fourth on the list with a .6
What hair on
ERA.
the ball boy there? What hair? I mean, what I tell you what, they definitely. Steve Ross said they pissed Class A off. They 100% did. Dude's on 103 miles an hour in a game, and quite frankly, means nothing.
How about this at bat by our boy Jake Fraley?
Yeah, he's battling. I mean, I appreciate it. There's the next manager.
Oh, no.
Hey, you never know. I say we put out a list tomorrow. I might sneak myself on there. This is a good at bat, though. You know, these are the types of moral victories we take here on Chatterbox Reds. We don't win.
That's
the
what
games,
we're all
but
about.
Yeah, exactly. We'll take. Oh my gosh, dude! Like, come on, bro. Do I really care? Probably not. But chat, throw us a bone, man.
Wait, before we even start the show, Trace, that was a shift. That was all shift. If it wasn't for the shift.
I know. Yeah, I'm aware. That's why I stopped doing that shift thing like a month in. One, I didn't have the heart to keep up with it. And two, I only care about double plays in the shift, but that's here nor there. All right, we got to do a show. We got to do a show. I have something. I want to say that's important when we get back from the show, when the show starts. So don't go anywhere. Please like the stream if you haven't already. Much love to you all.
High drive, left center field, racing back to the wall, Bourgeois. The Reds are National League Central Division champions. In the air, left center field. Did he? He did! He did! Reds win! Line to right field. Genius, the first Red ever with 4 home runs in a game. Can you believe it? In the air, down the right field line. Does it have a chance? The Reds have won on a 3-run home run on opening day by Ramon Hernandez. A strike away and out away is Homer Bailey. Ground ball to third. Frazier gloves. Throw to first, and Homer Bailey, for the second time in his major league career, has tossed the no-hitter. Oh, gosh. Oh, are you kidding me? Holy moly, the second player in major league history to hit 7 home runs in the first 10 games. In the air, and the Reds win it. What a dream beginning to the career of Jay Bruce.
All right, we have a losing edition of Chatterbox Reds. Myself, Craig Sandlin, will take you all the way through it. Of course, we'll do the box score recap, the deep drive of the day, which I don't know what we do again, to be honest, but we'll figure it out as we go. I have some things on the topics of the rundowns. The traditional, usual starting pitcher does make it, but I want to talk about something a little bit different than the performance. And really, the name of the game on this outing of Chatterbox Reds when it comes to them playing the Guardians on September 25th was rally killers. There was multiple times in this game, Craig. We'll talk about, types of things that perhaps this team could focus on moving forward where these things don't keep happening. And then we obviously have more games to be played. The final series of the season coming up this Friday. But first, I want to say, I do want to say something. I think that there are times when you do this show every single day where, you just kind of get beat down. Maybe a little more than you should let it beat you down. And I went back, I kind of reread the things that Jonathan India was saying. I watched some interviews. I think that I came down a little too hard on India. Personally, I really do. So I apologize. Not that he gives a damn, but I apologize to I try to be honest with my takes, and I do think that India said some things where he was talking out of both sides of his mouth a little bit. I still believe that. However, I will openly admit that I don't think I think he had to provide an answer when he's asked in front of his locker about some things, and I don't really think it's fair to judge him based off those answers sometimes. And I would also openly say that he has gotten better, Craig, and if I respect that. Even though I still don't really think he's the second baseman of the future, I don't think he's a guy that I want to be playing second base for my favorite team. I still respect the fact that he has gotten significantly better. And you know what? If he's playing for this team again next season, I don't expect it to be second base, but I also wouldn't sit here and act as if he's one of the actual issues on this team. He's not, he's not near the bottom of or the top of the list, I guess, of issues. And I felt like yesterday perhaps it probably came off that I felt like he was. So anyways, enough of that somber story. Any open thoughts before we jump into the box score and DSC?
Well, I'll just say this about Jonathan India. No, he's probably not the star player that we hoped he would be after his rookie season, but he's been a solid addition to this team and been an everyday player. And after leaving last night's game with a suspected concussion, being back out there today just shows the toughness that he brings day in and day out. And if we're being honest, I might be reading too much into this whole scenario right now. A lot will be made in the next couple weeks. It honestly feels a little bit like we're entering a new era of Reds baseball right now. And I don't know if it's just because I don't remember the previous searches as well, but it does feel like accountability and, expectations are higher now. And whether that's a change in mindset from Nick Krall, from ownership, from somewhere else, I don't know. But Jonathan India being willing to make the comments that he made, Elly De La Cruz and Hunter Green both came out with comments today, with Charlie Goldsmith that we'll get into later in the show. It does feel a little bit like it's shifting tune, and it'll be interesting for me to see where they end up going with a managerial search, and if that actually plays out with the ultimate hire, or if they go a different direction. But in terms of Jonathan India in general, he's a guy that I'd love to have on this team. He's not a guy I'd love to have my everyday second baseman, but those two things aren't mutually exclusive, I don't think. But to your point, in terms of opening, a lot of missed opportunities tonight. It's kind of the story of the season, it feels like, and not a fun last couple innings, or I guess last half inning.
Well, I was thinking when you said the last couple, I was thinking weeks and maybe
a
couple,
couple,
maybe months. I don't know. I really
that's true.
There's only been so many bright spots of this season, and it just gets disheartening time and time again when you see. Really, what's maybe the most disheartening thing is you see what Detroit has done, you see what Kansas City has done, and you see what Cleveland has done. And I guess you could point to other places where it's similar to the Reds, right? Chicago, the White Sox are abysmal. The A's are abysmal. You could say the Rays are kind of a little bit of a letdown for that organization. And certainly the Pittsburgh Pirates are the Pittsburgh Pirates. And the sad news is that the Reds kind of are getting lumped. And in fact, they are, rightfully so, almost lumped in with that group. I hate to say that, but like when we talk about the A's, when we talk about the White Sox, when we talk about the Pirates, the Reds are there. I mean, that's where they're at. And it's just that how do you get yourself out of that group of I guess for lack of a better term, like bottom dwellers, bottom feeders, whatever term you want to use, and not even get to mediocrity, because I even think like mediocrity, I don't even know if I would give this franchise that right now. Like a mediocre baseball team or a franchise would have been to the postseason a little more than they have throughout the last 20 years. And they also would have at least probably won one series. So, and I'm not trying to turn this into a horrific, show about how terrible this fandom is that we live in, but something does have to change. And I guess my whole point about India is like, I go back, I sit and I marinate on all that. And you know what? The sad thing is they've not even sat through the misery of what we've been through. I mean, India's only been doing this for a few years. I mean, and they see it. So I don't know what has to change. I think we all know ultimately what has to change. But the problem is that the dynamics in Major League Baseball, I just don't know if they allow that. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. I really don't. And I don't want to go down that path tonight. At some point, we'll probably get there, but not tonight. So, all right, we'll jump into it. I don't know if you have a box score recap. If you don't, I can run through something. But if you have one, you can take it away. I know one thing. You don't have a lot on the Reds, at least through most of this game.
Well, we'll get to the Reds in a couple paragraphs, but I do, in fact, have a box score recap, which, as always, is brought to you by Nicholas Kirby. After the Guardians secured that Ohio Cup would stay in Cleveland, the Reds and Guardians were back at it Wednesday evening for the last meeting between the two teams of 2024. Jakob Junis on the mounds for the Reds, while Andrew Walters handled the opener duty for the Guardians on what ended up being a bullpen day. Stephen Kwan didn't wait long. He led off the game for the Guardians in the bottom of the first with a home run to right field in his first at-bat since being activated off the 10-day IL. Then in the fourth, Jose Ramirez tripled off right center, then was driven home by a single by Josh Naylor to make it 2-0 Guardians. Jakob Junis ended up going 5 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, and 3 strikeouts. The Reds wouldn't get their first base runner until TJ Friedl reached on a bunt single to lead off the 7th. He advanced to second on a throwing error on a pickoff attempt. Then Friedl would score on an Elly De La Cruz single in a throwing error by Guardians second baseman Andres Jimenez. The Guardians' lead was down to 2-1. Jake Fraley then doubled in the 8th, followed by a single by Santiago Espinal. That single bobbled by center fielder Lane Thomas, allowing Fraley to score, tying the game up at 2-2. But after back-to-back two-out singles by the Guardians, José Ramírez once again punished a pitch, taking Emilio Pagan deep to right field for a 3-run bomb, giving the Guardians a 5-2 lead after 8. The Reds would load the bases in the 9th with nobody out, but were unable to push a runner across the plate. They fall 5-2. They now stand at 76 and 83 on the season. Elly De La Cruz collected 2 hits. Tony Santillan and Buck Farmer both worked scoreless innings for the Reds, who wrap up the season in Chicago this weekend.
All right, we have a deep drive of the day, and by that I mean we have nothing, and that's fine. We're used to this. So anyway,
shout out to Spencer Steer for his 382-foot flyout.
Yeah,
and thanks to
listen, he hit the ball
thanks
hard.
to DSC.
Thanks to DSC. Listen, we tried hard. We did our best, and we'll move on from Cleveland. The mistake by the lake, but who's not a mistake by the lake is DSC, and that is Deep South Commodities for you at home. They are a leader in renewable commodities, specializing in biofuel production, use cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. All right, let's get into the rundown here. We have the Rally Killers. 2 back-to-back nights is kind of a unique situation where the double play ball, as they say, is a pitcher's best friend, and it certainly is. It was the Rally Killers tonight between Stephenson and India. Both opportunities get foiled. I know the 9th inning. Listen, when you're facing Class A, like I'm not going to get upset that guys get punched out by him, right? And they put a couple really good swings on Class A with the bases loaded in the 9th inning. That was an outlier to the traditional sense of how they've kind of gone about scoring opportunities this year. So I'm not gonna sit here and act like the 9th inning was a problem, because I don't think it was. Like, that's just a little bad luck. But what isn't bad luck is this.
Trey, stop. We got to stop.
Okay, go ahead.
Michael Rolfe with a $99.99 super bomb on a Wednesday night in September with the Reds out of a playoff race. Just drops an absolute bomb. And I apologize for interrupting your thought process there.
No, that's okay.
It has to happen. Yeah. And look, Meat, longtime supporter of the show. Obviously, we really appreciate him. I don't think you ever actually got to a game with him this year, but
no,
that's got to happen. We got to find time to get together.
I don't know if he ever even intended for it. I mean, listen, the guy, he can text me anytime he wants, but Rolfe is supporting us in a big way. And listen, I'll tell you this. I really appreciate everybody that supports this show. I mean, I can see the usuals in the chat on a night-in, night-out basis. Rolfe has always been a loyal supporter, and I very much appreciate that. So here goes his super chat. That's going to probably be on there for the next – hell, it might be on there for the rest of the season. I don't know how long those 99.99 stay up there, but by God. I mean, they might be up there on Saturday. The dog days of September have become normal. I'm tired of the crying poor rhetoric of being a small market team while with limited resources. Marge Schott, not the greatest human. Marge Schott, not the greatest human, is rolling over in her grave at the Veggie Company bozo. I can't do this. Rolfe, these are, by the way, these are not my words. These are Michael Rolfe's words. He says, I got to get through this. Marge Schott, not the greatest human, is rolling over in her grave at the Veggie Company bozo. Owner's level of success. Love, Seafox. I don't know if it's just because I'm tired. I'm so
feel like
sick
we
and
need
tired
that,
of watching this team play, or what. It's the veggie company bozo that got to me, man. I
We
didn't
need
see
the
that
disclaimer, like some people put in their Twitter bio, like tweets here are not representative of the company that I work for or anything.
Right. Yeah, I don't endorse nor deny. That's where I'm at. I'm not saying I'm on one side of the fence or the other. But thank you. Ned Flanders is always coming in here supporting us. Said Michael Roth made all his money betting against the Reds. Just saying. Yeah, that's one way to make good money.
Listen, if you just kept rolling it over.
Oh yeah, you'd be doing really, really well. Where was I? It's the question.
Where
I have
were we?
now?
We were talking about rally killers. Oh man.
No, listen, I have a decent take. I think it's more or less at this point with whose fault. I guess the question I have is whose fault is this? And some of it's on the player, yeah. Some of it, I think the majority of it should be on the manager, although we don't have a manager right now. I know we have an interim manager, but Freddie Benavidez. I know we're saying all the nice things about Freddie Benavidez. I know he's on the list. I know Nick Kroll said he's the only candidate that he's looked at so far. Okay, all right. I mean, but if that's what we're doing, then sure. But anyway, so you just can't have a baseball team that is going to be successful when you've been not just getting no hit, Craig. You have a perfect game going in the 7th. And you know what else I'll say? I don't know what I totally feel about the TJ Friedl situation, bunting with the perfect game, but I'll also openly admit it's 2-0, so it's close enough to where you're just, you're trying to make something happen. So I whatever. He gets on base, right? An error gets him essentially into scoring position. A base hit's not even, well, they called it a base hit, but I would venture to say it was more or less an error. An error allows him to score. You have Elly De La Cruz on first base, Craig. The score's 2-1. Nobody out. You've obviously struggled to score in this game. It's not like it's 9-8. It's 2-1. You have quite literally the fastest guy in Major League Baseball at first base, and on the very first pitch, you swing. And yeah, you hit into a double play. And I guess people would be like, well, what happens if he hits a double? That's not my point here. My point is that you got to have a clue about what opportunities are available to you. And the truth is that you got to let Elly have a chance at stealing that bag. Not only be selfish a little bit, want to get a guy in scoring position. And these are the small things. Like, they might not be a big deal, Craig, like on a one-night basis. But over the course of a 162 season, these types of decisions that you make add up, and those small things become big things. I'm not going to yell and scream about it tonight. I'm kind of past all that. I'm saddened by how we don't try to utilize our best advantages that we have as a team, and sometimes, even to a certain extent, bunting more for certain guys. And I'm not saying that bunting's the right way to go. But far too many of these guys I just don't think they think about the game. Like, I don't think that they're processing the game, and maybe they've all checked out, Craig. And that, I don't want to say that's not fair, or that's fair, but maybe that's it too. I mean, I don't want to act like that isn't a possibility considering it's September 25th and they're out of the race, but it just is a problem time and time again.
Well, and it happened twice, right? So here's the thing that bugged me is that you've got the Guardians reeling. So Friedl reaches on a bunt, right? So right off the bat, you're annoying them. You just break up the perfect game by bunting for a base hit. And then the pitcher throws the ball away on a pickoff attempt.
Correct.
So now you've got a bunt hit, you've got an error, and then what happens? Elly singles or not, but a terrible throw by the second baseman, and you've got another error. So now you've got two batters in, you've got two errors, plus you've got a bunt hit to break up a perfect game. And the Guardians are, I promise you, on their heels. And Tyler Stephenson, to his credit, like, it's not like it was a bad pitch. If he would have swung at a pitch out of the zone or something like that, I really would have been mad. He got a thigh-high slider that probably should have been a ball that he could control. But to your point, like, activate Elly De La Cruz on one of the first couple pitches, give him an opportunity to get into scoring position. You're down 2-1 at that point. And then the very next inning, they do the exact same thing. So Jake Fraley gets on base with a double. Espinal singles.
Right.
And Lane Thomas bobbles the ball for another error. So they've got now 3 errors in an inning and a half. And then Jonathan India comes up and he does the exact same thing and grounds into a double play to end a threat that very well could have been a long threat and a rally there. But he swings at a ball that was borderline out of the zone and grounds into a double play again to end another threat. And it just, it's just a reflection a little bit, I think, of what you've talked about on social media and on this show before. Just the fundamentals are not there with this team. And some of those things are evident in some of the fielding errors that happen. Some of them are very evident in terms of the decisions that are made on the base paths. And some of them are very evident in what happens at the plate. And that's what I felt like happened tonight. Those are scenarios, to your point, where you just have to be more aware of the situation and adjust accordingly. And, maybe Ty Steve wanted to play hero there and felt like he got a decent enough pitch to take advantage of it. And it just didn't work out to his credit, but it's just frustrating. And then obviously it happens again in the 9th. It's 3 innings back to back to back where you have rallies that could be happening and you don't take advantage of them to their fullest.
Well,
9th inning, you get bases loaded with nobody out.
My thing with Stephenson is like, it's a slider, dude. I mean, if a fastball right down the middle, okay, but like, are you going up there looking for a first pitch slider? And if you are, then like, please, I've never heard of great hitters doing that. So I again, how much I want to harp on this point, I don't know, but it's just I'll openly say that I really question the baseball IQ level of a lot of the guys that we have on our team. Not all of them, but I think that we, as a fan base, some of us, I think we confuse aggressive play with high IQ play. Those aren't the same thing. Like I don't mind an aggressive player, but just because a guy takes an extra base from time to time because they're just aggressive doesn't mean they're thinking through why there's reasons why you would want to go to first or third in certain situations and maybe push the envelope. If you're facing a good pitcher, a high strikeout type of guy, then maybe you don't push the envelope to go first or third. But if you have a contact pitcher and you've not done well, then maybe you push it to go first or third with less than 2 outs. And if there's 2 outs, then you probably shouldn't try to get to third base with 2 outs if it's going to be a close play because you're already in scoring position. Just small things like that I think most people know that have played baseball for a while. I just don't know if they value it enough is where I'm at. All right, Junis did start, and I think we're at the point now where Junis isn't. It's not. That's another check the box. Martinez going to get a qualifying offer, and Junis is going to get signed. That's where I'm at with it. And if you get Martinez and he accepts the qualifying offer, then you kind of maybe a little overspent a little bit for him. But you'd have Martinez and Junis, and between the two of them, there's your depth, right? We always talk about you have to have good depth in all of sports. Most notably, you hear it in football more times than not because guys get hurt. But the genuine idea that I'd have is that if Junis and or Martinez, right, both are on this team next year, I can at least assume I'm going to get one of them to be productive to what I expect. And if they both happen to be good, that's great, Craig. But this team has to start building depth and rely or expect, not the unexpected as much, but I would expect them there to be disappointment and injuries. Nick Krall can't go into next season with the assumption that these guys are going to be good and or above average players. We have to have, I would say at this point, we need to have an outfield bat for sure, probably a starting pitcher. And I guess I'm okay with relying on Espinal. I don't know how you feel about it, but that's where we're at. And as far as a backup catcher, they're going to have to figure that out too. Because, I mean, we might not have maybe he'll be a player manager, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think there's any question that there's a need to add an outfield bat. I mean, I think that much is pretty obvious. One interesting note that I saw Obviously, we saw that Tyler Callahan is going to go to the Arizona Fall League. I'm not sure if you had a chance to talk about that yesterday or not. I apologize. But I saw today that he's going to go to the Arizona Fall League as an outfielder. And so they're looking at moving him to the outfield now instead of second base, which is where he's been. This is a guy that's at AAA that they have a lot of belief in and that a lot of people think can be valuable. I think he's Rule 5 eligible, so they're sending him to Arizona, let him play in the outfield, then maybe protect him on the 40-man, see what happens. So I don't think that he's our I don't think he's the answer in the near term by any means, but certainly it's glad to know that they're thinking through those things. And I don't know what the outcome is going to look like. We talk a lot about the managerial search and accountability and things like that. But at the end of the day, Nick Krall still did mention that this is a small market ball club and that they need to be able to promote from within. And what you, myself, Kirby, and others would like to see this offseason, I'm just trying to keep my expectations in check. And my expectations are probably to be much more similar to this past offseason than to the offseason that we'd like to see.
I would also add this. I agree with what your sentiments are in regards to what we should expect going into this offseason with the spend. I just need to know what the plan, and they're not going to ever say this out loud, but I pray, and again, I'm not here to claim that I'm incredibly smart. Rolf is out here super chatting again. Let me get through this thought, and I'll get to that. This has to happen. This Ellie thing that everybody keeps laughing about, I keep pushing this narrative like, hey, you gotta do something about this. I know that it takes two to tango. I'm well aware that Boris, throughout his entire career, is probably going to want his client to get to free agency, right? But at the same time, you have to treat this as one of two things. He's either going to entertain the opportunity to get extended this offseason, and you're going to be able to put enough money up on the table to where the few years where he's going to be completely underpaid actually outweigh, or they gain yourself the advantage of making sure that you can compete with the free market, because they can't compete with the free market with Elly De La Cruz, but they can compete with the free market if they're given an extra $50 million to play with, in my opinion. And I think that they could do that because they have what we call a rookie contract at their disposal right now, and that rookie contract has a significant difference between what he's worth and what they're paying him. So they could get it done. I think they could get it done. But my point isn't about Elly. It's more about what is going to happen. And they have to know that well before Elly becomes an unrestricted free agent. They have to have a plan. And my point is if the plan is that he doesn't want to entertain options until he's a free agent, then let's treat it like he's going to be gone. And if we're going to treat it like he's going to be gone, then I'm not trying to say that you throw hell and high water and you get rid of every prospect. But you must treat the next 3 to 4 years differently than you would treat a traditional 3 to 4 years. Elly De La Cruz, and for that matter, probably, hopefully, one of these other guys that we keep clamoring about, they don't grow on trees. They don't. You don't have superstars that are just walking around the diamond every single day playing for a small market team. And if you're going to openly admit that you're a small market team, then let's get on with it. Okay? We can't be sitting here and acting like we're a small market team, but we're going to be smart enough that no other small market team's ever been able to figure out, right? Think about how, like, Craig, think about how laughable you sound. That you're the franchise that has the longest run in major sports right now without a playoff series win or a playoff win of all the sports. Yet, you're going to convince me that you're smarter than all these other small market teams, and you're going to have to find a way to build sustainability and be able to make a championship quality roster year in and year out. That's just not how it's going to work. And we all as fans have to know that. We have to embrace that to a certain extent. I know people like make fun of the Marlins, But by God, wouldn't you rather be a fan of the Marlins? Like, wouldn't you rather have a 3 or 4 run stretch where you go all in, you win, and then you just have to sell everybody, and it sucks, and then you rebuild and you get back. And I know we kind of half-tail this rebuild thing more times than not. All I'm saying is, at the end of the day, I want to know the plan with Elly, and if we're going to sign him, great. I get it. We're spending money on him. If we're not, then you just got to go all in, Craig, and you got to spend more money than you're comfortable spending over the next 3 to 4 years to try to put a roster together to do something special. And if not, I hate to say it, but then you're just banking on luck. That's what you're doing.
I honestly don't think the plan matters. You have Hunter Green and Elly De La Cruz locked up on this team through 2029 guaranteed. If you want them on the team, they are on this team through 2029. Your window is the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Period. We talk about windows with the Bengals and Joe Burrow and the talent they have with Jamar Chase and everything else. The Reds have the similar window. And whether we want to admit it or not, I still firmly believe that they are only a piece or two away from being a legitimate contender if they are healthy. The problem is they also need depth in order to back up when they aren't healthy. But both of those superstars are under contract through 2029. Hunter Green has a club option for 2029 that I'm sure the Reds will exercise if he continues to perform this way. It's only $21 million. Elly De La Cruz, pre-arb right now, goes into arbitration eligibility through 2029. There's zero reason, if you're the Cincinnati Reds, that the next 5 years you must be vying for a World Series championship. It's your only opportunity. And that doesn't mean that it won't change down the road if ownership changes or philosophy changes or whatever it is. But as it is right now, with the focus that they have on growing from within, the only way that they are going to win a World Series championship is to, one, continue to hit in the draft, which for the most part they've done, but they're just not supplementing it with stars elsewhere. And that's the key to me. Jamer Candelario or a Jamer Candelario-esque signing can't be your marquee signing every offseason. It's not good enough.
Correct.
They have to do something more to get to that next level. Otherwise, they're just going to continue to be at this mediocre level unless something wild changes and they get some sort of miraculous superstar out of the farm system that we don't know about. Right now, the pitching rotation is set up to be competitive in a playoffs. Right now, you have Elly De La Cruz offensively. You've got to figure out whether it's off. I mean, obviously, the outfield needs help. You've got to figure out your situation with some of the other young players like Matt McClain and CES and where they fit in. But bottom line is that this team has a 5-year window starting now through 2029. And regardless of what they expect from Elly De La Cruz, they're doing a disservice to Elly De La Cruz. They're doing a disservice to the city if they don't go all in for a World Series championship in the next 5 years.
I completely agree. And I would openly say that if they do re-sign Elly, I get that restricts their ability to go outside and sign guys. But a lot of their books have been relatively cleaned up by now of long-term contracts, right? Joey Votto obviously falls off. Ken Griffey Jr. falls off. You have some money at your disposal. I just think that you look around at these teams that are playing really, really well, and they all have 2 superstars at least on every team, 2 or 3. I mean, yeah, I get that the Yankees and the Dodgers, of course, their whole half their roster is what it is, but just this idea that we can keep adding mediocre talent as depth pieces to having one war players all over the diamond, Craig, like it just. And I get if every single player was a positive war, that'd be great. But that's not how it's going to work. We all know that. We're going to have a situation where a couple guys are going to get hurt and or they're going to have a down season. And I guess the sad news is that if we're not capable of doing that, then Major League Baseball is going to have a real problem. And I hate to get down the rabbit hole right now of that, but they're going to lose a significant amount of fans. And I will openly admit that my heart is in this next 3 to 4 to 5 years, but I got to be honest. if I see that the dynamics of the game of baseball don't allow these teams to be able to capitalize on their own home runs that they hit internally, then what's the point? Like, at least in the NFL, if you draft somebody that's great, unbelievable player, you know that you can keep them if you prioritize it. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here a little bit, but my point is like, if we're incapable of keeping guys that we have that end up being unbelievable players, then I'm sorry. Like, I'm not interested in rooting for. I'm no disrespect. I'm not interested in rooting for a mid-major basketball program that every single year all their best players get poached away, and then all of a sudden you're like right back to square one, and the only way you can win or be relevant is if you are unbelievably good at everything else. And the sad news is that this franchise has never shown to be able to do that. And I know that there are other examples out there, and the Guardians and the Rays, and you go down the list. But if Kansas City can, I guess my last point is, if Kansas City can get Bobby Witt to sign, why can't the Reds? Like, what's the excuse for the Reds to be able to re-sign Elly? And I know the pessimism around here is always down, and just because we've been beat down so much. But I got to be honest. Like, when I think about Elly signing or not signing, I think it's a real chance. It's just going to require them to move fast and move early and take a risk while they have an advantage. And if they don't want to do that, or Elly doesn't want to listen, then we got a problem. Simple as that.
Well, I mean, the difference is Scott Boras, right? So Bobby Witt Jr. is represented by Octagon and by his father, Bobby Witt Sr., who also played in the league, understands the value of that contract, versus Scott Boras, whose lone job is to maximize the revenue. And I think that they have a different philosophy. And ultimately, and Nick said it on a show the other day, is that maybe if Scott Boras has another terrible offseason like he had this past offseason, maybe that changes his ways. But as of right now, and for those people in the chat, like, there's zero. I don't want to say zero. I put the odds of us signing Elly De La Cruz this offseason very low right now. And it's not because I don't think the Reds won't try. I just don't think that Scott Boras wants it to happen. And I don't think that the Reds and Scott Boras will get to a number that makes sense for Scott Boras to budge on his desire to keep Elly De La Cruz, maximizing his contract. And ultimately, you know, someone said that he's going to sit in like Jamar. Like, that doesn't do him any good because he doesn't want a contract. Like, the difference is that Elly wants to get through his obligation so that he can maximize his contract when he leaves Cincinnati, versus Jamar Chase, who knows that Cincinnati can pay him the same amount that anybody else will.
Right.
That's the difference. Is the salary cap provides a different opportunity in the NFL versus in the MLB, where you don't have that. And you have teams like Cincinnati spending $100 million, and then you have others spending $300 million. It's a very different scenario.
With all due respect to the intelligence of most of our viewers, I think they're smart enough to realize that's a horrible comparison, considering that if you're Elly De La Cruz and you decide to sit out, then you don't get closer to free agency, which is what he ultimately wants. The thing that I would say about Elly with this whole Scott Boras thing, Boras represents the player. If the player truly wants to get a deal done, then the deal will get done, even if it goes against what Boras perhaps believes in. And I would also openly say about Boras, at some point your run in the sun is over. And the fact of the matter is, he got took into the woodshed this past offseason. Absolutely abysmal display of what happened to his clients this past offseason. So, again, I'm not saying Boras is washed, but I'm going to say to Boras and also Elly, hey, and again, I'm acting as if I'm the Reds, I'm willing to give you a significant amount of money up front. Life change, generational money up front right now. Sign on the dotted line. We'll have you for the next X amount of years, whatever that number ends up being. The point is, though, is that you're not going to make this money, this extra, what will we call it? Probably $60 million is what I guess we could do, somewhere in that over the next 3 years, maybe four years, $60, $70 million. Again, I don't know what the actual number will end up being. What was Bobby's? At 300 for 10?
No, it was less than that.
Okay, well, let's just use 300 for 10 as an example.
Yeah.
I have a hard time believing that if you go to Elly and you say, I'm going to give you 300 for 10, right? That's going to get us to when what age would he end up being? Probably 30, low 30s.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be an idiot not to take that, number one. Number two is that I would also say that Elly in his previous and I know he's making money now, but he also signed, if we remember, that insurance agreement that he loses 10% of whatever he makes regardless because he took the insurance policy. So in a way, maybe Elly wants comfortability. Maybe Elly wants what I would consider to be, comfortable contracts as soon as he can get them. So maybe I'm being blind and I'm a blind Faith fan. I just think that I don't want to hear the Reds use Scott Boras as an excuse for them not making a move and trying to go for it all and sign him. And you know why? Because it's more or less not a matter if they sign him or not sign him. I at least need to know, Craig. I have to know. We got to get to these conversations now so I know if there's a chance at signing him. That way, I know that if the answer is no, I can move forward with a better plan than otherwise just sitting here acting like, well, I got all this money that I plan on spending on Elly, and if I'm not going to spend it on Elly, then we're spending it somewhere else. So that's where I'm at with it. A couple supers here real quick before we jump to anything else. RZ says, I have the answer. Pull Leslie Nielsen from his cold grave to have him be our team traveling ump. Is that the guy that plays the I Will Find You or whatever? Is that the guy?
No. Leslie Nielsen's the dude from
this?
like Airplane, the old comedian.
Yeah, I'm not cultured. Sorry. I don't
That's
know
all
that.
right.
Should I know that? I don't know. Rolf says
it's a playoff that classic clip where he's a baseball umpire and like he doesn't actually know if it's a ball or a strike and he just like calls it a strike and then the crowd goes wild and so he decides that everything is a strike and then he strikes out a guy and does this like big dance behind home plate after striking out the batter.
Understood. I think I actually know what you're talking about now. Rolf has a couple. Rolf has two supers. I mean, this dude's basically paying for the he's paying for the monthly rent note for Chatterbox Sports at this point. He says, Trace, I hear your point about baseball IQ. These players wouldn't have made it to the show without a brilliant baseball IQ. I fear it was coached out of them. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the next manager. We'll talk about that here in just a second. As far as no, that isn't how they made it to the major leagues sometimes. Listen, with all due respect with baseball IQ, some of the best players that I ever played with were absolute idiots when it come to understanding the nuts and bolts of, what good risks are and what bad risks are when it comes to the game of baseball. They're just naturally God-given, athletic as hell, and they do care about the game, so they practice their individual things. They hit all the time. They field all the time. But they don't think through the game like a manager or a catcher or someone like that would, right? So that's the difference. As far as getting coached out of them, no, I don't think so. Rolf did say, if you were the GM of the Reds, what is your offseason plan, assuming the Veggie Boys aren't in charge and you have unlimited resources? Well, if that's the case, there'd be a lot of options. Let's jump to the first one, though. We'll go to the manager situation because that's the last on the thing. I don't know if you've seen it or not, Craig, but Luke Maley, he was on an official MLB beat reporters list.
Surely that was just Mark Sheldon, like making sure we were paying attention, right?
Perhaps. I think he was just
like, there's no way that he actually thinks that Luke Maley is a legitimate candidate for the managerial job. And not even to say that he's going to retire and become manager. He's going to be the first player manager since Pete Rose in the 70s. Like, I can't buy that was a legitimate comment, but it's also, I mean, and this is the interesting part about just like, team reporters. Mark Sheldon's stuff goes on Reds.com. Like, it's not even like it's some blog site. Like, that is literally on Reds.com that Luke Maley could be an option. Here's what I'll say is that I think all of the other names on that list are likely on there for a reason. I don't know for a fact, but I firmly believe that oftentimes teams use reporters with lists like that to try and gauge response. And so whether or not that's what they were doing, I don't know. But would not necessarily be surprised if one of the names on that list become the manager of the Reds next year.
I don't know. I just don't want to get down the path of thinking that it has to be somebody. That's my thing, right? It's like I know we all want to sit here and name names and be like, this person would be best, that person would be best. I'll just openly admit, I don't know. I really don't know what's best. I'll judge whoever the manager is based off what I see throughout the first few months of the season and how they adapt and how they react to things that will either be accountability issues or X's and O's decisions. And again, even these X's and O's decisions, more times than not, you're playing Monday morning quarterback with them. So I don't get too over the top with those unless it's egregious, right? Unless you're J.R. House and you're sending a tying run home and he gets thrown out by 25 feet and there was nobody out in the inning and it's a one-run game. Like, those are things that we can certainly get mad about. But I just would caution all of us in thinking that as soon as they announce whoever they announce, we automatically make 100% claim on whether it's good and or bad. Unless they go get a well-known name, as I mentioned before, if they go get Cash, maybe if they get Francona, they get someone like that, then okay, I'm okay with that, Craig. But if they go get the vast majority of what I see on this list, it's hard for me to get excited and it's hard for me to get super pissed off. Barry Larkin's the one that I think probably would be the most vitriol of all of the guys, and I'm not counting Luke Maile, to be clear.
I think Barry Larkin would be the most divisive manager that we've seen here potentially anywhere. You're going to have a ton of people who are thrilled, and you're going to have a ton of people who are the complete opposite of thrilled.
It's almost like the broadcasting, his broadcasting, Craig,
100%
actually made it worse for him from a perspective of most Reds fans. And I know that sounds crazy and seems crazy, but just, and again, he was an unbelievable player for the Reds. And was it during my lifetime mostly? No, but I can respect what he did. I can respect that he's a Hall of Fame player. He's obviously knows he knows baseball, you know? It's just that I don't know if it's the monotone voice. I don't know if it's just the measly old rambling of what seems like nothing at certain times in the game. I don't know. It just didn't do it for me. And maybe he would be different in the clubhouse, and perhaps that's where he needs to be. And, you know, to be fair, Craig, you can be a great accountant, get stuck in a role where you need to be a public speaker and everybody thinks you're an idiot, and you might be the world's best accountant. Maybe Barry Larkin would be the world's best manager. I'll at least see it through before I make a huge proclamation is my point. So I don't know where we go, but the last thing I want to say, and I love the chat, but like Connors, there are times when Connor says things that I just think are crazy. I mean, he said Mr. Juan's 11-year, $340 million contract to Elly, they would scoff at, or they wouldn't even consider. What world are we living in, man? I mean, maybe I'm naive. $340 million guaranteed, brother. He could go out there tomorrow and get hit by a bus. The dude doesn't even make anywhere close to generational money. Not even close. And I know that sounds harsh, but those are the things that you start thinking about when you're offered that. When you're offered that much money, you change your mind. Go look at Live Golf. Mr. John Rahm himself out here talking about how, oh, I love the PGA Tour. I'll never go to a league like that, blah, blah, blah. Well, when they drop that much money in front of you, guaranteed, come on. And maybe it'll be a blessing in disguise that they don't sign Elly. And I'm not rooting for his downfall or anything, but I'm also openly admitting that it is a risk. It's 100% a risk. Largely because of injury, not because I don't think Elly will be good. But, hey, I just think people scoff at the idea that the Reds can spend some money, folks. Let's not act like they can't. The question is what do they want to spend it on? All right. Final thing, we have more baseball, Craig. That comes on Friday. Headed to the windy City. We'll see if we have a graphic for that. I don't know if we do.
I'm sure Nick has that ready to
he
go
does,
for us.
and you know what I love about it? It's
a TBD.
It's a TBD and a TBD, and I got to fix some things on here. I mean, he's carrying us, but he's not. So,
well, let me say one thing real
what
quick.
What time do they play on Friday?
They play at 2:20. That's accurate.
So we just needed to change Tuesday to Friday then. All right.
Yeah, and the Cubs have since announced their starter. It's going to be Jameson Taillon.
Nice.
So Jameson Taillon is last time out against Washington on the 20th, 6 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks. He's made 4 starts in September, Trace, 25 innings pitched, 1.08 ERA, 19 strikeouts, 5 walks. But the 4 starts prior to September, 22 and 2/3 innings pitched, 6.75 ERA. Career versus the Reds, 17 starts, 5.15 ERA. Lone start in 2024. A July 29th Reds 7-1 win where he went 4 1/3, 6 hits, 6 earned runs. Will Benson and TJ Friedl both homered in that one. Tyler Stephenson in his career 5 for 6 against Taillon with a double and a home run. Will Benson 3 for 6 with a double and a home run. India 2 for 4. TJ Friedl 3 for 11, but all 3 hits extra bases. He's got a double and 2 home runs. Spencer Steer 3 for 10. Same story, 2 doubles and a home run on his 3 hits. Ahmed Rosario 2 for 7, Espinal 3 for 13 with 6 strikeouts, Elly De La Cruz 1 for 5 with a home run, Ty France 1 for 6, Fraley, Marte, and Maley all hitless in their careers against Taillon. He throws 6 different pitches, a 4-seam fastball and a cutter that he relies on 25% of the time each, a sweeper, a curveball, a sinker, and he throws a changeup on occasion.
All right. I mean, Greg Salen coming in with all the details for Friday. And you know what I'll say? What a loyal group of people we have here. They are sticking this bad boy out to the very damn end. We got a Friday show, we got a Saturday show, and I'll be the first to tell you Sunday we are going to go live in the 9th to wrap up the year. We will not be doing a show at 9 o'clock at night on Sunday. To be clear, we will be going live directly after the game's over, and we will put a cap or a bow, if you want to call it that, around this season. Don't know if it's a bow. It's like it's littered with ash, I guess, from all the burning fire and coal. But
we're gonna tie the ugliest knot you've ever seen, like right. A 7-year-old learning how to tie their shoes for the first time.
That's true. Even that sometimes can be cute. This has nothing to be cute about. The score wasn't 0-0, so to make this, I guess, what we'll call a perfect show. Why not? We'll wrap it up with that. We'll actually fix that.
Perfect show.
Well, you know, hey, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and sometimes it chat? It rains. That's what sometimes it is. All right, and look at that. Who knew?
Look at that.
I think that was the final. I don't know.
Real quick, just to address a couple of things we've talked about. I mentioned earlier Hunter Green and Elly De La Cruz finally make comments about the managerial change. A couple that were interesting to me. Elly De La Cruz says, quote, "The team needs to improve a lot of things." Thanks, Elly. But he also, Freddie Benavidez called for him to be more of a leader. Elly added, "I'm not really thinking about that, but if it comes to that moment, yeah, I'll be a leader." Hunter Green said the Reds are, quote, "obviously entering a big offseason," declined to share specifics, but he said there are some, quote, "more things that have to be addressed and tackled in the offseason on all fronts." He also said, quote, "someone that's able to recognize that they can pour value into any player. That's important in our next manager. Presence is important. Being able to establish holding players accountable." So all of that kind of ties into the things we've talked about over the course of the show. I just forgot to mention them. So here I am.
No, I like that.
Adding some context to the comments.
Well, and context.
And Rolf isn't done.
And Rolf, please. I'm doing it again. I want Nick's opinion too. Top 3 batters / top 3 pitchers for the Reds in 2025 from you guys. Trace will be going live Sunday, and I'll be there to fix the wall during the show. Rolf, I'll give you the address if you want to fix that. I considered doing it, and then I realized it was going to be a bigger job than it was. I got to take the basketball hoop off the wall. I got to take the little black mat thing off the wall. I got to basically do that whole entire sheet. Can I ask something, though, about this whole leadership thing? No offense to Freddie Benavidez about asking Elly to be a leader. Can we just get decent, like, good players? Why's everybody got to be a rah-rah leader? Just go out there and play the game, you know? And again, I'm not going to do the rant thing tonight. I'm trying to calm down. But in all seriousness, God bless America. These are adults. These are grown men. Just go play the game. Be good at the game. Win.
Let me read the quote. He said,
"Come on, man."
I don't know if Charlie specifically asked him about Elly being a leader or what, but he said, quote, Elly's a very quiet individual, but he leads by example. He plays every single day. He prepares. He's in the weight room. He gets his work done on the field. Every day he's leading by example. In his first full season, he's getting the pulse of the clubhouse. In the future, this is a guy that will definitely be one of our leaders.
Okay, well, I just, oh, golly day. I mean, the manager's job is to hold people accountable and make sure that there's a clubhouse that is fair. They're the CEO. They're the parent. They're the ruler. They're the president, whatever you want to call it. If somebody doesn't do their job and they're slacking off, I would like to think the manager can hold them accountable. Don't put them in the lineup. That'll probably fix it. We got a new regime coming, okay? So it is what it is. Like, no point in getting fired up about the fact that we're asking a guy that's literally in his second season that we need him to be a leader. Like, get the hell out of here, dude. Like, with all due respect. With all due respect, man. I mean, golly day, dude. How about this? Go find some better players, okay? I'm going to end it on this. Go find some better players. Go get some better players. You won't need leaders. You won't need rah-rah guys. It turns out if you fill a roster full of Luke Maileys, 24 of them, you know what you're going to have? You're going to have a World Series champion because everyone's going to be fired up to go every single day. Shohei Ohtani's out.
Speaking of get the hell out of here.
Yeah, Shohei Ohtani's gambling on games. Got his interpreter in here taking the fall for him, and all of a sudden, you know what? It doesn't matter. Why? Because the son of a gun hit 50 home runs and sold 50 bags this year. No one gives a damn. You know why? Because all we care about is winning. Enough of the Disneyland, Disney World, rah-rah, Mickey Mouse stuff. I'm done with it. Let's just go find a way to win. And please, God, just get some better players. That's all I'm asking. Better baseball players. We'll see you Friday.